So Website Essentials 2017. What in the world do you need in your website? That's what we're going to talk about today on Saturday Morning Marketing Smarties. Good morning, everybody. Well, it's good morning for me for another hour, I guess. Hang on a second. I'm going to cough. Well, that's great. Howdy doody. Hi, my name is Roland from MinMax Media, presenting the DIY Live Streaming Show.com website and the Saturday Morning Marketing Smarties Show. And I guess we've explained it all too often, so I won't get into the Saturday morning of it all. But this is the Marketing Smarties Show, and we're coming to you live from all over the world, actually. But a couple of us are from Tennessee and Southern California simultaneously. So it's a different time for Tim, perhaps. But for me, it's at least one more hour of Saturday morning before it's no longer Saturday morning. So hi, everybody. I hope you're doing well today. Whatever time that you joined us at, I really am happy that you did, and I appreciate the fact that you're taking the time to be with us. So we have a few viewers, it says, and what I would like to do is have the viewers check in and tell us where you're coming from and how you heard about the show or how you got there. You know, was it a luck of the draw? Were you just searching around, or were you notified and something through my circles, or just let us know how you found us. So the subject today is going to be one of my favorites and kind of interesting for sure. What your website needs. And we're going to get into that, but let me see if there was a couple of rants and raves that I can get off my back here because one of the things that I love to bring about with this show is the stuff that's on the internet today that is misleading or deceptive, and to me that's the same as black hat programming to me, deception. Now a lot of people will disagree. They say, well, no, you know, if you lead them to something and the people buy, that's their business, and so forth. And I agree with that, but I come from a little bit of a sidestep off that path, and that is that when you offer something or say, hey, do you know blah, 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 what about this? And people click on it because they think that they're going to follow a conversation or run into information concerning a certain thing or a certain context regarding a thing. I think that you should deliver that, and it shouldn't be a bait and switch. So anyway, that's so we're going to cover that in a second. But before we get to that, let me say that I am joined here by a companion who has been dutifully handling my backup stuff for weeks now, and I really appreciate him being here. So Tim, why don't you turn your mic on and say hi to the people? Tell them a little bit about yourself.
Hi, everybody. Thanks, Roland. I'm Tim Longwell, for those that don't know, with Longwell Art, where we help you regain and reignite your creativity for your health and happiness. That way you brings about contentment and a state of fulfillment for your benefit. And we also do custom artwork as well as other things for those interested. And you can find us on longwellart.com or on YouTube. Just look up Longwell Art.
Very good.
Andy says hi, and he said you had an echo. So I don't know if you saw my message about checking to make sure the web page isn't playing back on your end.
It was, and that was what the echo was, and I'm very sorry about that.
And that's it.
It shouldn't be going on anymore since I turned that off. So let me double check that. Yeah, so we're live streaming now, and the volume's down. Even people who have done this hundreds of times make mistakes. So, that's the way it is. But anyway, so I wanted to cover a couple things that before we get into the main subject matter, because one of the things that I am just really having a problem with, and it's my own personal problem, my own personal issues, but is email subject lines, and also the other thing that kind of somehow, I don't know how this happened, drops into the same category, and that's pop-ups. Oh boy. I think pop-ups are fine if used properly, but used the way most people use pop-ups, they're very invasive. And that's like advertising today is called, most of it fits into a concept called interruption marketing. And the concept is you're online looking at something else, and this thing pops up and gets in your face. And maybe even disables your ability to see what it is you were trying to read or experience. And it gets in your way and brings you to a stop and said, hey, you want to subscribe to a mailing list, or you want to buy this, you want to do that. And it's like, no, God damn it, I do not. Get me back to my article. And so invasive, or it's called interruption marketing. And to me, that is invasive. So these are things to kind of fit into that. So the first one, I've mentioned this several times, and this is going to become the cliche of 2018, the one that they're using today. Everybody is using this. Everybody, just about, except for the chosen few that rise above this whole concept, and that is ... grab your spot ... So the word grab and grab your spot, that combination, is one of the most commonly used phrases when you want people to sign up for a webinar and this and that. And what kind of cracks me up is with certain platforms, it's true, you've only got 100 people that you can go live with or include in the webinar, and that's the way that's all set up, and they will charge people more if they have an overflow of the number of people that they're allowed. So grab your spot makes some sense, but to me it doesn't. It makes less sense, and here's why. I broadcast these shows, the Saturday Morning Marketing Smarties, to the world, and literally, if people are on YouTube or on my website and so forth, I don't know what the limit is of people who can watch what's going on. I think it's unlimited. So when they say grab your spot, it's like they're insinuating that there's going to be no room left and you're going to lose your spot or not have a spot if you wait. So you ought to grab it now. And this is a psychological thing that they're influencing, because they're not going to come anywhere near their quota, but they want to add you to the list because they might sell you something. So grab your spot, and that little urgency, that concept of a CTA or a call to action, grab your spot, is supposed to work well. And I understand that it works, I just don't like it. Now, maybe I'm the oddball, maybe I'm not being as honest with myself as I could be, but that stuff pisses me off. I don't know why. And so that's that. But the other thing that I've noticed, and Neil Patel, I'm going to call you out on this one. because I think that this is the most insulting thing that you do. I love Neil Patel because the guy is very smart. He's very influential. He's helped hundreds of thousands of people. He's really done a lot for marketing. But if you go on his website and you're reading around and then you try to leave, it says something like, no thanks, I don't want to improve my thing. And basically saying, if you're leaving, it's because you think you know better than the author and what we're talking and what we're delivering. So you think you're so good you don't need us. And so it's like, no thanks, I don't want your help. And so he's got a pop-up that does this at the end when you try to leave his site. And that just takes the edge off of my respect for the guy because of that. I'm just being honest. Now, the other thing is that a lot of people are copying Neil because I think that he's the leader in stuff like this. So if he does it, other people are going to say, oh, yeah, that's a great idea. I can get more people to stay because I'm going to guilt them to stay. I'm going to tell them, you know, you think you're so smart and can do it yourself. Go ahead and go. Yeah, if you're that smart, go ahead and go. But the people reading that are probably not that smart, and their intention is not to leave because they don't want the information or don't want to endorse the deliverer of their information. But it's still a bit of an insult. It's kind of like, yeah, if you're going to leave, don't let the door hit you on the way out. So here are a couple more statements kind of common to that, and I think that they might have come right from the influence of people like Neil. This is like a pop-up cancel if you want to leave the website. Little line at the bottom says, and this is like, instead of a no thanks or a cancel, it says this: no, I don't want my SEO to be improved. I want to do it myself. And then this one was very similar to that. Someone else, this is actually on the impactbnd.com website. It says, no thanks, I can figure out how to redesign my website myself. So then you click that, and it's a real smart alecky thing that I think is insulting to the people that could have been a client, but if they read that and get any kind of an edge from it, I doubt that they will be your client, because when I read that, I was like, I'm leaving and I'm not coming back. So I don't know what you think, Tim, but those type of things kind of put the edge on my attitude. And, you know, part of it is that I'm a marketer. So people come to me and say, hey, should I use something like this? And I said, absolutely not. I think that's the most derogatory thing that you could say to a non-client before you have any kind of a relationship building with them. And anyway, that's my rant and rave for the pop-ups and email subject lines for the day. Okay, I feel better. So the concept of what we have today is that a lot of people are telling other people, this is what you need in your website. This is what your website needs. So before we get into the subject, we got to see what Tim's bringing.
Yeah, we got a few comments from our viewers. Andrew Hatchett says pop-ups are immoral and should be illegal. Barbara DeLucio says it's in-your-face marketing. That exclamation mark would hint to me very strongly that she probably doesn't care for it either. Candy is checking in from Tokyo, and that's who we have with us so far this morning.
So she's so far away, I have to shout out to her. Hi, Candy. We haven't seen you for a long time. I'm glad you're checking in. And the subject matter is an interesting one today, because for the Internet Marketing Tripod and what we teach, we want to promote the concepts of your website first, video marketing second, and social media third. And more specifically, YouTube video marketing and the various aspects there. And then, of course, it's well, what are you reading? What are you experiencing, Tim? Who's coming?
Oh, Andrew made the comment that in some cases, that kind of marketing that you're ranting about is known as JMM, Jewish Mama marketing.
Oh, maybe we don't want to put that up in the display.
No, that's why I hadn't really planned on even, but it's on screen now. It's in your stream.
Yes, we'll want to make sure that we consider being tactful between you and me whenever we do this. But at the same time, we don't necessarily censor what we say on this show, because we're basically kindly people and we're being honest. And we also would like to assume that people realize that there's very little or no what do you call it? I don't even know the word anymore because I never go there. Anyway, wow. Sometimes a word escapes you and then you're just like, drawing a blank, Roland. What the heck? But there is no controversy that we have, and then when the word pops up and it's say, oh, that's what he's trying to say. And anyway, we do not hold discrepancy between race, culture, creed, and color, any of those things, and we make assumptions based on, well, this is predominantly an American and a Western European and maybe even a Western Hemisphere focus that a lot of what we're talking about pertains to, because of Google geographics and various things and similarities between cultures and continents. But indeed, a lot of what we talk about is worldwide. Common sense and manners. I mean, I think intending good stuff is pretty universal. Being nice is pretty universal, and it's becoming more worldly, where it's like, not as much of that. We don't do that in this country, or we don't do that in this land, or in my neck of the woods, you say that, them's fighting words. We have less and less of that, and part of that is just coming up with, well, if we talk enough and communicate well enough, we'll realize that in spite of the words we choose or what we say, our intentions are pure and our intentions are good. So that's one of the things that the Enlightenment veil is going to be lifted, and the cloud veil is going to be lifted on the world just because we talk to each other. And to me, that's a very important thing. So not so limited about what we do. But in the meantime, our websites are very micro-focused. So the subject being website essentials. I went through a search on Google and came up with several different resources that had ideas anywhere from 5 or 6 to 11 essentials that they, as whatever their focus of their organization, endorses as the essential things that you need for your website. Now, when you talk about this in general, some people are going to think that you're talking about how your page looks on mobile devices, or how your page looks in general, whether the colors are right or these type of things. But we're going to mix this up because not everybody has the same perspective. So all these resources make these statements, and what we have to understand is that the perspective might be close up or the perspective might be far away. When I say that, when you think of the perspective being far away, you could imagine that when someone's looking at a website, they think, well, this is what it looks like, but behind what we see is all this gadgetry, there's machinery, there's the user interface, and then there's the operations interface. And these are two different things, and all that stuff behind in the back end of a website is critical. And if you don't do certain things right, even your presentation and your view of what the consumer sees will be affected. So the perspective is really dire. But I'm going to give you what these various resources produced. And some of it's going to make sense and some of it may not make as much sense. But to me, it all makes, across the board, pretty good sense. But I would definitely think that some of these people missed a few things and some of these people emphasized things differently than I would. Now, the other qualification that I want to make is that my audience is the newbie, beginners, maybe intermediate, stylists, and developers that are new in the game and trying to learn how to get some exposure. And websites have changed so much that even websites that I made a couple, 3 years ago, I've had to call these people up and say, you know, we have to change this concept in your website because it's no longer acceptable, or it's no longer going to do the thing that you thought it was when we intended to 3 or 4 years ago. So that's one thing. And so when we take these into consideration, I'm going to show you the list. I'll itemize the various things. I might get into a couple of the things briefly, and then I'll explain what I think is the important takeaway per resource, and maybe my interpretation of what they're trying to say. And I'll try to hold my judgment for the end, but I'm pretty hard pressed to do that most of the time, so I will admit that. But anyway, I'm going to share this and we'll go through. There's even one list that talks about it's saying goodbye to certain things. And this was really interesting, and I'm going to get excited when we get to that page. But it's like certain things that are going away that we thought were really, really important just a short time ago, we're saying goodbye to. So it really brings out the essence of the changing environment. And what is good today, or what is the right thing to do today, may not be the right thing tomorrow. So when we're picking and choosing the right things, we have to pick and choose the things that make the most sense and that have, in our feelings about things, the best longevity. And we really can't predict that, because as things change, all of a sudden something is no longer kosher, or no longer correct, or no longer politically correct, or no longer the right thing to do. So we'll get started and we'll see what this brings. I'm going to do a screen share. And show you what my little slideshow's got going. So this is the first the first resource, and this is Forbes.com, and I'll go over the points real quickly. And their qualification is in 2016. Now that could be a typo on their part, because the header of the article was from approximately June or maybe August 2017. But they made this list apparently at the end of 2016. And if they're endorsing in 2017, this must be the stuff that they consider is still pertinent. So they talk about mobile first, fast loading, tracking enabled. When they say tracking enabled, they're basically talking about Google statistics and Google Analytics. So that we won't get into the specifics that much, but that's what they're talking about, tracking enabled. SEO ready. Now, when this is a very, very vague subject, but SEO ready, every page has to be SEO ready. The title of your website has to be SEO ready. The functionality of the site has to be correctly manipulated to correspond to SEO processing. There's a lot that goes on in the background with SEO. Almost not everything, but there's a lot in the background. So SEO ready does not mean SEO optimized, search engine optimized. It just means it is readily able to be SEO'd or search engine optimized. Now, the next one is conversion optimized. And I would have to read into this more. The conversion optimized, basically what they're saying is that every single page, everything that the people read should be geared towards taking people to the next step. So if you've got an article on whatever it is, it should be, now if you want to learn more about this subject or you want to read more of what we have to offer, go here. And you give them something clickable that will lead them on to the next step and keep them engaged in your website at least, or following along the subject matter that you were delivering that captured them and they read to the very end of the article. So give them a way to go to the next step. That's what conversion optimized represents to me. And if people in the outside are thinking anything differently, please chime in and Tim, see what they say. And if I'm missing anything in my explanation, let's add it. Let's add the subject for conversation from the people. Powered by CMS. Powered by CMS basically means content management system. So what they're saying is that what I'm doing in WordPress is probably a really good idea. And the bottom line is that in CMS formats, and we're talking about Blogger, Drupal, Joomla, and WordPress. WordPress is the biggest market of these selective opportunities there. WordPress covers probably over half of the people using CMS systems in general, and all the rest of these are all added together to make a little bit less than half. So if I'm working with people who have WordPress sites, I'm working with a vast number of people who might be interested in what I have to say. There it is, email marketing. So with the people who say email marketing is dead and it's old school and old news, Forbes doesn't think so. That's what we're hearing here. Social media. Social media, they're basically saying sharing in social media and making it yourself easily to follow, which has more implications than just putting links in your site. You should be developing a social media presence where you're posting regularly and developing specific content to go to your social media. That's what that social media number 8, that icon says. So it's a bigger term than just adding links to your website. But when they say add the links to your website, you want to add the links so people can share your stuff and choose to follow you elsewhere. If they don't want to follow you on the website, they can follow you in Facebook, or they can follow you in LinkedIn, or they can follow you in Google+. Wherever it is that they're comfortable following you, they should be able to follow you. So that's what they're suggesting there. And then the number 9, strong security. Absolutely, today's age, you have to worry about that, because if your website is hacked, that puts everything in danger, including your lists of people if you're building a list, or the people who opt in or sign in, and this type of stuff, and all that stuff that you're transferring via your website is under scrutiny if you do not have strong security. And just from the standpoint, if you don't have strong security, your own data for your own purposes may be jeopardized. So the security is very important. What's coming up? Oh, Jay Neal.
Yeah, Jay just made it in. He apologized for being late. Then he pops up. He's saying that every website should be conversion optimized, have an end result, buy something, comment, sign up, call, click, come by. So he's basically reiterating some of the points that your Forbes list there is.
Absolutely. And well, one of the things about that is that Jay is a superb marketer. And he's one of the few marketers that I feel comes heartfelt from the right place. And he deals with his clients and customers and the people that he works with and directs them to do the same thing. And he's really kind of like the soft-touched, hardcore marketer. So he knows the stuff really well, but he's not a forceful impulse buy promoter. But he knows how to get the best averages and the leverages and stuff. And one of the things that he wrote first was buy now as one of the options of the conversion thing. And although I don't disagree with that, I will say that most people don't want to put a buy now in front of people. That would be the last thing at the right time, or one of the last things. But other people don't want to take you on a journey of learning more about me or learning more about my subject. They simply want to go, here's what I sell. You want it or not? And then it's applicable. But if you're building up a relationship with people, you want to get them to learn more about you. So if they read one article and they like that stuff, give them a chance to get to know you better. And that may not be, it may or may not be the case of putting a price tag and a buy now button in front of them. So I would be very careful about that. Knowing when to drop the hammer is a very important thing. So the next list, whoops. The next list was from a company called Carollo.com. And without really getting into the what Carollo is, but there are another resource that deals with websites and marketing. So the first thing they do is, they wrote is, position yourself as an expert by writing high value content. So they're not talking about one or two things that they put in the website. They're talking about the actual content. And I like the fact that they put that first, because that's what the people in developing a website have the most control over, is the content you're generating on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. So high value content can be scrutinized from a lot of different directions, but it's basically like when we talk about some of the principles that I adhere to, I think that we ought to give away our best stuff. If people don't know what it is you do specifically and cannot consume some of that, then they have no idea what your value is. They might have a vague idea, but they really know your value when they've consumed your best stuff. So if it works for you, because it may not work for everybody. If you're a car salesman, you're not going to give away a car, but the knowledge you have about that car, the knowledge you have about your business, the knowledge that Tim has about his art abilities, that's his best stuff. And if he can convey that to somebody and then they take that knowledge and go on from there and can express themselves differently as a result of that, then that's a success story. And whether Tim makes a buck or not, he's going to smile about that. And my premise is, if enough people are smiling as they walk away from Tim, he's going to find a way to make money at it, because the value is obvious. The people are benefiting, they're smiling. So inevitably, there's a way to package what he knows and sell it, because obviously people are benefiting and people want that benefit. So there's a way to package it up, but you have to deliver value. So I'm really, really into this company's roundup, and they look at things a little differently. So as we go through these, you'll see that. Drive more traffic via Facebook and Twitter sharing. So obviously have a good social media action on the social media websites. Increase social sharing via icons on all pages and posts. In other words, don't just have them on the framework of your homepage, but literally have a call to action at the end of every article, at the beginning of every article, somewhere that floats on the page or is easily seen. Because when people get the impulse, man, I really like this stuff. How do I follow these guys? The follow button has to be in view, if at all possible. So, that's one of the things that you want to focus on, is like where you put those social icons and how they are implemented. I love this too. Grow your email list by offering added value. In other words, you're not tricking people into opting in. You're simply saying, listen, I've got this thing that I would very much like to give you. I'll trade it for your email. And if you've delivered some kind of value to the people already, and they're saying, I like what this person has is delivering, then you can add a little bit more and say, hey, I've got this, I want to give it to you. How about this? And when they get there and they see, oh, he wants my email address. Well, I think it's worth it to me because this person has given me something already. I kind of owe them something. And I most certainly think it's probably going to be worthwhile. Yeah, you can have my email. And when they opt in, then that's the point at which you have an opportunity to develop a relationship. So what you do after that point is critical. If you hammer them with sales stuff, they're going to opt out. If you hammer them with more information and more value, they're going to stay and listen, and that's what you want. So grow your email list. Increase conversions by treating every page as a landing page. I thought that this was very insightful, and it goes back to what the thing that Jay said, is have a conversion on every single page and lead them on to the next thing, another article, another concept, a new video, or whatever, a survey, to lead them on to the next thing. You increase your conversion by treating every page as a landing page. So when people get to the bottom, it's like, now you have a CTA. And the CTA may be for any number of reasons, but you are suggesting, listen, if you like what we just consumed, you might like this too. In other words, I helped you here. Maybe this will also be a help to you. And that's how you should look at that. Get found in search engines by featuring a page per service. I think that people, it used to be that we would put a page of a list of services. If you're an exterminator, you would say, we deal with ants, we deal with these types of bugs and snakes, and we do that and that. And then just have a list up there with the things that they exterminate. But it'd be so much more value if you say, here's a page about ants and what you have to watch for. And here's a page about snakes and what you have to watch for, and so on and so forth. When you do this, you increase the value of your site, and you are more easily found. If people are looking for an exterminator, it's very general, and you're caught up in this full array of people who do extermination. But if you've got a snake in your house and you want to get rid of the snake, or if you've got ants, you're going to Google, how do I get rid of ants? Or how do I get rid of a snake? So if you've got a page devoted to that, your chances of being found are greater in search engines. That's what they're saying. Okay, look after mobile users and they'll look after you. What they're saying is just simply be mobile friendly. And what we've been conveying to our constituents since the start of the Smarties is we are mobile first, but not only. Mobile first, but not only. So a lot of things are moving the mobile direction, but we are not only concerned with mobile, because what we found is more people will search on a phone because it's handy and it's right now and it's with them all the time. You're not carrying a computer in your pocket. So the phone is where people do the search out of convenience. But if it's something that they want to know more about, so often they're going to read some of it there, but they're going to bookmark it and come back to it where the viewing is more convenient. So that's where the people who are really doing deeper research may or may not move to their computers to consume more information. So understanding what the process is, not just the statistic that more people look you up and find you initially on a phone, so you got to be mobile first and everything else doesn't matter. That is so much hogwash. So mobile first, but not only, and this is what they're saying, look after your mobile users and they will look after you. Because if they have a good experience on their phone, they're going to tell more people, hey, listen, go to this website on your phone and you're going to get what you need. You're going to have a good experience too. So get people talking about the user experience from mobile. If you're looking after them, they're going to promote you. Okay, the next one is clear, simple, and easily accessed nav, or I shorten it, navigation is the word. And what they're saying is that if you have clear, easy, simple, and easy navigation, you're going to increase your visitation duration. In other words, if people can find what they're looking for, they're going to stick around longer. So clear, easy navigation is very, very important. So I don't disagree with that. Encourage inquiries by displaying relevant contact information. Now, obviously, people are saying, you know, in the before the fold, before the first framework of what comes up is passed or scrolled on or moved away from, you should have your contact information, and that's your phone number, basic location, and email opportunity right there in the first fold of a viewing. And that's a really good rule of thumb. But the other one is, and they forget that, well, I'm going to leave what I was going to say, because another list by someone else emphasizes what I was going to say completely. But anyway, displaying your relative contact information, obviously. Reduce bounce rate by speeding up load times. In other words, don't have a slow, jerky website with the wrong structured implementation so that your website is slow. Then the last one is keep on top of your security and backups. And basically, if you've got plugins, if you've got a WordPress platform, make sure everything is up to date. And that's a part-time job to make sure all those things are secure, but you have to do it. Okay, bouncing on to the next list. Huffington Post narrowed it down to 5 most important things. Oh, we're going to interject right now and see what someone has to say. From Tim?
Yeah, and you regard your Forbes list, and something I know we were going to go into further forward, and I notice it's not real prominent on the Huffington Post either, is Andrew made a good point about putting number 9, the security of the website, as number 1, that none of the other stuff counts if the website is insecure. And then the one before that, Forbes. Strong security.
Sure. So he's saying number 9 is more important than the rest of them. And I think I do not disagree with you at all, Andrew. It's like the platform of your entire website is designed on this, right? So if that's secure, you can move on from there. But your security has got to be together, completely together. So let's, okay.
Okay, then Jay had one that he was talking about doing the page setup in the comments that you were going over there in the last. That long tail keywords are the way to go when it comes to ranking your content. Think about all those smart home products that allow you to search for things, Siri, Google Home, Amazon Echo, and they allow that long phraseology search by voice now, not just typing in, where it's no longer typing in garbage disposals. Now it's a case of you're asking a device, where can I get the best deal on a garbage disposal? So you can see his point there on that ranking for those long tail keywords, the way people are going to be asking for them.
Sure. And it's not so much focused on the ranking, because that's not what the subject is today. We're talking about the actual structure of how, how we're designing the website. But it comes down to this. Before you start designing your website, you've got to be thoughtful about what you're delivering as product or service. And you've got to know what these long tail keywords and phrases are, so that you design your content and your structure and your SEO accordingly. And if we were talking about SEO today, this would be a definite subject that we would delve into further. So thank you for that contribution there, Jay.
And Barbara Quick says she actually made it before it ended. So despite her busy day, she's glad to join us.
Barbara Quick, I love her. She's got the most odd, intricate, and interrupted schedule of anybody that I know. She's responsible for everybody and herself, and she's got her challenges. So I appreciate you. I appreciate you joining us. Thank you, Barbara. So back to our list, we're going to look at that Huffington Post list briefly. Minimalistic design, plenty of open space, big responsive hero images, call to action, informational footer. Now, to me, it's real simple to go through the 1 through 5. But I mean, I thought it was very interesting that I pretty much agree with them, although they really chop it into like groups of concepts that are principle oriented, not specific details. So let's go over these more carefully. Minimalistic design. What do you think that means, Tim?
Minimalistic is, you don't want it too busy. You want it simple. It helps with the load speed, which is very critical because of the attention span on mobile. But it's also, that way it's not cluttered and it's not confusing. It's to the point and people find what they want easily. That's
it. And traditionally what we used to do was we used to have an encyclopedia of our A through Z happening in our website. So it's like, oh yeah, I got to have a page about this. Oh yeah, I have to, this is another thing that I do on the site. I should have a page about that. And it's no longer that way. The more things that you try to put into your website, more distracting you are towards your primary goals. And your website nowadays, and this is a generalization, so it really depends upon per person, per objective, per website. But you really want to focus on the primary service you offer and what it is that's going to attract the most viewers to you, and then expand out in your details from there. But focusing on the big thing that you offer and is going to give you the best chance of snagging following in the first place. And that is where your bread and butter, and that is where your real benefit and your real influence lies. So if you micro focus on a few of the things or one thing that you do, your odds are better and your website is going to be more successful if you focus on that. So that contributes to the concept of minimalistic design. And minimalistic design also has to do with flat design, which we're going to cover a little bit later if we get through my lists. But flat design is basic full colors, broad colors, not as much movement of three-dimensional viewing. Shadows and gradients are on the out, and solid colors and bold colors, broad text, and that's what all this big responsive hero images. In other words, we're using big images appropriately and implementing them so that they do not slow the website down so much. But choosing the right image, not just a big image, but the right image makes a huge, huge difference. So that combined with big text, the right fonts, and all those things is part of minimalistic design, and using hero images, and also using the openness of the concept of open space is very important, because open space emphasizes what you put in there that is not open space, but it draws attention and focus to whatever it is you put in the open space. Hope that makes sense. And then of course they have the call to action. It emulates the same thing that we've been talking about, every page treated as a landing page and so forth. But the last thing, we'll cover the number 5 in just a second, and see what it is Tim's bringing.
Yeah, Paul Murray brings out.
Paul.
He just looks like he just dropped in there. Just let us know he's here anyway. And he brings up a valid point in that call that goes right in with this call to action that we covered earlier. And that in some cases, that buy now button or option may need to be on each page, because we don't know the buying path of the person that comes to the site. If he refers someone to Jay's site as an example, they arrive at the site looking to make the purpose, the aware, trust, wanting to buy part of the journey is done because of the know, like, and trust that he's built up. And so to try and backtrack the client to start at the beginning of the buying journey could be an opportunity lost. So it could hurt you if you want to convert referrals into that immediate buying opportunity, because they're already ready to buy. So there's a good argument to the necessity of having certain options available at some point, even if it's not one of our favorite things.
No, I absolutely agree. And Paul, thank you very much for your contribution. And the opportunity to buy my services now is always available from any page on the DIYLivestreamingshow.com. If people want to opt into one of my crash courses, they can buy it right here and now. And that's by entry-level buy. So I definitely concur with you. And whatever it is that you're promoting, the people ought to have a direct line ticket to get that object right here, right now. So that's a really good point. But if people do it wrong, it looks like a push. And you don't want to put it in their faces. It simply needs to be an option if they choose to. And so that's something you got to measure out and design into the structuring and the design of your website. You can't simply say, oh, this theme does this, and I think I'll use it, because its use or implementation of the buy now option may not be appropriate for what you're trying to do. So make sure that you design it right and choose the right theme or choose the right design. Now, on the Huffington Post page, the last thing that they mentioned is informational footer. And I thought it was really interesting that out of 5 things, they got real specific on this number 5. Informational footer is something that nobody else mentioned. And I thought, well, that's really interesting, because I've always said the contact information should be front and center and very available on above the fold, but you should also have a full lineup of contact information at the bottom of your page in the footer, because the people, oftentimes, it's still a habit of some people, scroll to the bottom, look at the footer, find out where the people are, what their phone number is, what their email is. And maybe, the most general information about what you do. And sorry, I'm burping. And also in the footer, you can have links to all the rest of your pages. So the footer information, an informational footer says a lot. And the Huffington Post, with 5 points, is one of the people who caught it, and nobody else did. So I thought that was very interesting. So I want to move on to this next one, and let's see if, hang on. No, that's not one. That's the one I wanted to show. The reason that I wanted to show this one real quickly is they're saying there are things that people were doing recently, not too long ago, that are no longer the right thing to do. So designhill.com, these people focused on a few things that are gone. They're gone. And I thought that this was really interesting. I like to start at the bottom and work my way up. So number 5, goodbye old design. In other words, let's embrace the flat design, which is what we talked about earlier when we were discussing minimalistic design, and move beyond 200 PPI, or what people sometimes call DPI, or dots per inch. It is actually PPI, pixels per inch, is what they're actually trying to say. And the concept for the, 2 solid decades was 72 dots per inch. That was the minimum design quality, because that's all that basically our best monitors were capable of showing, was 72 dots per inch. And then all of a sudden 1080 dots per inch became more of a standard. And even before that, people were talking about, no, you got to upgrade your standard for your images to 96 dot per inches, and so forth like that. So more and more people are using higher resolution photos. And now with what is the iPhone uses a thing called retina displays, which is capable of doing a lot more, a deeper resolution. And in other words, you can use higher resolution photos and completely change the user experience and what they see on these displays. And so now they're saying, if you're not using at least 200 DPI or PPI, you're missing the boat. Your images are not being seen as well. So design factor is no longer 72 or 96, it's 200 plus. And you might go 250, or you might go 300 in your DPI. 300 is something used commonly in photography, and print media uses 300 DPI. So that's usually said, you've got a huge image now. So now you've got to watch how you implement it, and it's going to slow your website down, because it used to be long ago. And I'm going to come off the screen share for a moment. It used to be long ago that we would focus on not only 72 DPI or 72 dots per inch, but we would also focus on small images. And my first guru on this used to say, you've got to get your images down to 4 or 5 pixels. I mean, 4 or 5K. In other words, K stands for, help me out, Tim. When we're talking about images and you say
kilobytes or kilobits, depending whether K is capital or not, whether it's bytes or bits.
Right. So, but 4 or 5K is nothing. It's a couple of 3 colors, maybe, and it's a small image. And I could never adhere to what he was saying. But
and there was a reason for that too, because even at 56 bits per second on the fastest modems that were available, 5K could take forever to upload and then back to the website. If people had to wait on that speed today on their phones, nobody would use the web on their phones.
Very true. And so, the fact of the matter is that speeds have improved, computers have improved, and the delivery system now is hundreds of times better than it was 2 decades ago. And so now the changing with technology is allowing us to build completely differently. And people understand this roughly intellectually, but I'm not sure they really get it. And to translate these factoids into what the actionable concepts are for their website, that's another story. So, and one of the things that what came to me the other day, that you and I were talking about, the concept of video and websites. And so I've got like in DIYLivestreamingshow.com, I've got a video right there on the front page. And I've got links to video throughout the website. But I checked on some of the speed testing websites for DIYLivestreamingshow.com, and I got an A rating. I wasn't trying to get an A rating, but I was doing everything that I thought was right, and I absolutely achieved the A rating, so I was happy with that. So how you implement that is as important as what you implement and what you use. So nowadays, I lost my mouse. There it is. Nowadays, I've got so much going on, so many screens that it's kind of tough. Nowadays, it's not just what you want to convey into your website design. It's what you choose as your platform and how you use it. And just offhand, if you use WordPress, you have the opportunity to be 90% efficient on all that we're talking about. So is WordPress the very best way to build a website? In a lot of respects, no, but it's damn close. And for us, the people who are trying to DIY, do it yourself, WordPress is a good option. So back to my screen share. Let me see if I can wrap up my presentation here. The concept of old school pay-per-click. I'm not a pay-per-click person, but Design Hill is saying the old school pay-per-click is goodbye. Now, they're not saying PPC AdWords is gone, but what they are implying is that the strategies used for PPC is different from what it used to. And we might have a whole show with Jay here telling us whether he agrees or disagrees and exactly where. Oh, it might really help if I went in and share the screen. We might have Jay come on and talk about why he agrees or disagrees or what he thinks the differences are. But Design Hill says old school pay-per-click, goodbye. And then moving up the line, number 3, SEO copywriting. We had a discussion, Tim and I did, about this. And the concept that I think that they imply, because all these websites didn't have just a ABCD checklist, they had little write-ups below each one. If you want to go to the websites and look up their articles, you'll be able to see the extended version of what each of them had to say. But what they were implying in my translation was we used to write articles, or some people used to write articles. A lot of people used to write articles just to get the SEO influence. Now, this moved the subject matter almost to secondly important. In other words, if it was more important to get the flow through, I would construct my article not so much on what I have to say, but how I should say it to get the best SEO response. And nowadays, that's actually looked down upon by Google. And if you are SEO copywriting purposely for the SEO results, you're not being as true to your subject as you could be. And somehow Google is able to sense this and will actually ding you in the process. So it's not necessarily to your best interest to write articles to achieve the SEO. And you should stay focused on what the message is that you're trying to deliver. Okay, number 2, text-heavy sites. In other words, don't write a 2,000-word dissertation and put it on your homepage. Stick to the bold images, good subjects and titles, and good catchphrases, and big images, and impressive things that will sway people to tell more of the story of what you're trying to deliver without you having to explain everything. So too much text is a bad idea. More text in the right place is a great idea, but too much text in the wrong place can kill you. And then the number 1 thing that Design Hill said, I just love this: mobile versions of websites, goodbye. And I'm going to stop screen sharing just for a second. Mobile versions of websites. In other words, the websites are built in. They're designed non-responsively. And so they got a full screen there for full laptop screens and home desktop screens. And they're designed to be viewed on that. But if you're on a mobile device, the website has an inside interceptor that determines that you're on a mobile device and sends you off to a different version of the website. And I've never thought that that was the best idea, and I had plenty of trouble doing it. So when responsive came along, I said, this is a better solution. One website, good on everything. And I had people say, I lost friends due to this concept. I was working with somebody designing websites for him, and then one day I looked at what he designed. I said, "This website's not responsive," and he said, "Yeah, I know." I said, "Well, what are you going to do about that?" He said, "Well, and he knows that I was into the responsive concept. Building a responsive website is not the only way to build a mobile site." In other words, he's challenging me, but we had other issues in the midst of all this. And so I narrowed it down. I said, "You're telling me that you think that the redirection to the mobile site version of a website is a good idea?" And he said, "Yes." And that's the option that he was choosing. And I thought, wow, I just can't see the logic of that. And this was a person who had disseminated so much good information to me that I was surprised that he was hung up on the non-responsive. And so I said, no, I'm going to stick to responsive because I think that that's where Google's headed. And I think it was a year and a half or 2 years later, Google said simply, either your website is responsive or we're going to ding you. And then that made it really clear that mobile sites, the mobile versions of sites, was not as accepted or not as preferred by Google. So I thought, okay, made the right decision there. But I mean, just goes to show you that some of these concepts and mobile versions of site, it's only, under a decade old. I believe maybe they were older and I just didn't know about them. But mobile versions of sites were not that common until approximately a decade ago. And please, people, chime in and tell me if I'm wrong. But then moving on to responsive is more like 5 years ago or 5 or 6. That was a much better idea to me. What's Tim bringing?
Andrew was bringing out he had a couple of points. One, when we were talking about minimalistic design, he said it means nothing more than 2 weeks. Anything you're there for is no more than 2 clicks away, hopefully only one. So it's not deep, complicated 100 clicks to get to the information or that you want or the option to buy or whatever the case he may be looking for. And then he's talking about the text, the heavy text on a website being goodbye. He said he thinks that it's totally dependent on the type of website, that less text on a product website might be better, but on a services or informational website, more text might work better, depending on what intent of the. So basically what he's saying is those principles, there may be some fluctuation in it because of the intent of the website or the information required to dispense. So the heavier text site to explain where you're explaining something, maybe a case of add visuals too to break up the text rather than large blocks of text. But the large text amount may still be necessary.
Well, Andrew makes a really good point, but the main thing that the people in general are emphasizing is that people are viewing these things on a smartphone. So mobile first, but not only. And so a lot of it is determined by the fact that they're looking at it on a smartphone. And something with larger text shows up better. And people are less likely to read extended text on a smartphone. Some of them will do it. Some of them read daily blogs or whatever their feeds will deliver them if they want to read and they like to read, or they read books on their phone. So it isn't that text is not used, but we're talking about more the application of what keeps people interested on your website, whether it's on the phone or whether it's on any number of devices. What makes them stay, what makes them interested, and delivers quickest the information that tells people what your website's all about. And then inside the website, there might be 1,000-word articles or multi-1,000-word articles, but at least people, when they arrive at your website, they know they're in the right place and they can find you easily. So that the whole concept of good navigation is really, really key. So I'm reinforcing on what you say, and it really depends upon what the content is that you are delivering. Is that a new comment there, Tim?
Yes. Jay was talking about the pay-per-click that where they were saying it's goodbye, and you made the point that it's not really dead as so much as it's changed how it works. And Jay was pointing out that he's certainly making a comeback with the pay-per-click in the form of small, quick ads within the Google My Business dashboard. And he's noticing a small organic boost with clients who are using the AdWords Express platform. So it's there, but it's really kind of a different way of saying what you said. It's not really dead. It's not goodbye. There's a more efficient quality way to deliver it that's more effective than the old spam it with ads.
It's back to one of the things that I've said since the inception of Smarties. You can hand a person tools, but if they're using them wrong, it's not going to work, or it's going to be trash, or it's going to be this tool doesn't work, But tools are great if used properly. Tools are great if used properly. So you have to know when and where and how, and if it's done right, they can be very, very effective. So appreciate that, Jay. Thank you.
And one more thing, Roz slipped in. She said she's sorry. Storm woke her up. She'll have to watch the replay. That she does try to be on time because your sessions are always so good. But, oh well, life happens when you're down under. That last part is mine, is the life happens when you're down under.
I know. It sounds like a pretty good tagline. Anyway, thank you, Roz. Roz Bounty is, she made a comment. I'm going to actually add that to my the show before I close it. And we're running overtime, so I'm going to take you to my last slide real quick and show you what I've got. So moving on from the Design Hill Say Goodbye To's, just leaving you with this. I agree with what most people say. What I've got here is 3 gray area points that are very important. And the only reason that they're up front is you've got to work on these things before you start designing. And then once you start designing, that's when all the white things come into play. And are these all-encompassing, consummate, everything you need to know? No. But there are things that if you focus on these, at least for the start, you'll be on the right track. And you've got to take it a step further and refine these and research all the other things that we cover with the other lists, the 9 and the 11, and all these other people are naming these things that are all very important. But here are the things that you focus on. If you're a solopreneur working by yourself, make sure you cover at least these things. And you want to focus on your domain name before you develop a website. Because if you choose the wrong domain name, you could be damaging. Tim's laughing there. You could really be damaging yourself by choosing the wrong domain name. In other words, maybe your own personal name, Roland Takaoka.com, may not be the best idea depending upon what I'm trying to do. So I hope that point is well taken. I also think that you have to have a catchy tagline. So the minimum you need for maximum impact, everyone told me that they liked that before I even incorporated it. And then it became the blood and guts of what the website was all about. So min-max media became the minimum you need for maximum impact. And somehow that just came together. So the tagline is very important, but it also focuses you on what it is, your purpose is, and what you're going to deliver. So that brings me to number 3. And you have to have a purpose strategy, not just a here's what the theme allows me to do. I think I'll plug and play and fill in the blanks and just launch the damn thing. You have to have a good idea of what you want people to do when they come to your website. And so you figure out what their needs are, what they're going to be looking for, and you deliver a solution and a benefit to them, the value, at the quickest way possible. And you design your purpose strategy around that. Then you start talking about a website. When you start talking about a website, I really believe that responsive design is the way to go. Something that is good on all platforms from the get-go, from the start. And then the principle behind that is mobile first, but not only. So you assume that the people will find you on a mobile device, but they might want to bookmark your website and come study it more in depth, or engage in you differently from a computer or a tablet. And then, of course, you've got to have your contact information, and we've already covered this. You should have it at the top of the page and the bottom of the page in the footer. There's no harm in doing both. And then this is something I thought that was pretty interesting. Hardly anybody really talked about video. Now, one of these 11 lists actually mentioned that video was a good idea, but it was real afterthought and was not emphasized. To me, I know that video can result in page one search results in a few minutes. So why wouldn't you consider video? And also the argument has come in, well, video is very slow loading, and so no one's going to stay to my website. Well, with a video in my homepage on DIYLivestreamingshow.com, I got graded as an A in speed delivery. So I'm no longer concerned about that. And another thing that I put was number 8, having events on your website. If you're going to drive traffic anywhere, why wouldn't you send them to your website? All these other platforms send people to another person's website where they archive the videos and where they show the videos, and you have to access the replays and all that stuff by using their platform. Why wouldn't you do that in your website? That's what the VCP plugin does. Allows you to function independently of these other platforms and do these events in your website. And that's where the most focus of the traffic and the longevity and the duration of the viewing time and all that stuff should be happening is on your website. So that's it. And then, of course, number 9 is social media connections, which I've already covered. Means a lot more than just having buttons on your website, but you've got a whole campaign that you have to work on and structure and decide exactly what you're doing in your social media platforms separately. And that's an effect that we'll have to cover for another day, another day. And that's just about the end of my win, Tim. How you doing?
Yeah, that was definitely a mouthful to deliver there at the end, rushing through it. Quick drop in. Andrew's Hatchet dropped his perfect tagline is, if I don't know it, it ain't worth knowing. And Vivek says, sorry he's late, and hi to everyone in the audience. And that sounded like you're going to go ahead and wrap us up. I want to thank everybody for stopping by and joining us. All wonderful, great comments and participation. And all yours.
Thank you. I didn't mean to play the music. It was kind of like an involuntary muscle spasm that touched the button when I didn't mean to.
Oh,
so
okay.
Sorry about that. You know, the concept is all this stuff regarding the website is an encouragement for people to express themselves. What Tim teaches people is an enablement to express themselves. And the concept of everything that we're doing on the Smarties Show is to encourage people to express themselves. For me to encourage you to express yourself. And good or bad or ugly, the most important factor is that you express. All these other derivatives of concepts and principles and what everybody thinks that you should be doing, it's all secondary. The primary thing is, what do you want to do? And then the rest of this is all details about how you do it and how you can be enabled to express it better and emphasize things better, deliver it better, be captured better. But if you're focusing on video, doing your responsive websites, getting the contact information, people are going to want to contact you, and you'll have an automatic flow of traffic. It might be building up slowly, But if you're true to form on what you're delivering, everything else is going to follow. So express yourself. That's, I mean, if I have any kind of a key message to all my deliveries, it's that. It's like I encourage people to express themselves. So that's the end of it all from our Saturday morning Marketing Smarties. Thank you very much, everyone, for being there. We actually have 12 viewers right now. So what is it that I kept saying that kept people around a little longer? I'll have to go back and listen to the show and see if I can get a clue off of my own stuff. But thank you, Tim. Thank you for being my buddy today and helping out with this and bringing the audience into the conversation. And thank all the people who made comments that we were able to bring into the conversation and added to the value of this show. So that's it from Saturday Morning Marketing Smarties, and we'll see you soon.